I actually grew up in a dojo. My father is my sensei, and the practice that I do is Okinawan Shorin-ryu, believe it or not. So yeah, we're gonna have to talk some karate while I'm here.
No kidding, Shoran-ryu,
It's
right? Wow,
yeah,
that's yeah.
yeah,
Most people don't even realize that karate is from Okinawa.
right.
So, oh yeah. So did you grew up in the dojo? You said you grew up training, but did you actually have you visited or did you live there or did your dad serve? Like, what's the connection there?
Yeah, so he actually found the practice through New York City. It kind of became kind of a bigger practice in the 70s. And so when he was in New York City, like right at the end of the 70s, it just kind of was one of these practices that he gravitated towards. He really gravitated towards it because it's more of a self practice and what karate should be really. We get into like bastardized sport karate where like kids are fighting each other for trophies and things like that. And it just kind of takes away from the true martial arts, and again, it's arts, right? So it's a self-guided practice. And that's where he gravitated towards it. But yes, we actually went to Okinawa. He's been 3 times. I've only been once, but those 2 weeks that we, went around the island, we were treated like kings, specifically because it's very important for them to have people that are ambassadors in other parts of the world to bring that practice to different people. And it really is. I mean, just going around Okinawa, studying with some of these grandmasters. I mean, some of them were like in their late 80s. As you know, Okinawa is one of the longest lifespans in the world. Their way of life is beautiful, and the people are beautiful. And I just really did. I grew up jokingly like a Ninja Turtle. I have 3 other brothers. My dad, obviously, Master Splinter, and I just did. I was a karate kid growing up. So actually, he has one of the longest running dojos in one place in the country in Front Royal, Virginia, which is the Front Royal Karate Club. So yeah, he's just a practice that he's always loved. He's an eighth degree black belt. I actually just went for my fourth degree black belt last year on May the 4th on Star Wars Day, which is the day after his birthday. So proud dad on May 3rd and going for fourth degree black belt. And again, the practice for me has always kind of been a family element. Like so many of these people are just it's kind of you beat each other up. Like you don't wear pads obviously, but it's respectful. You're not trying to land punches. You're not trying to hurt each other. And so I think it's so much of really honestly who I've become as an artist is stemmed from my background in karate.
That's wild and something I never would have guessed. A good friend of mine is Josh Simmers. So my wife is Okinawan and so is Josh's. He actually started the Okinawa Karate podcast. I feel like I need to connect you guys where he's
Yeah.
interviewed so some of the portraits of those original grandmasters and many of them at this point have passed away, but I'm talking 95-year-olds still training. Like we know them personally. I might have to introduce you to Josh so you can talk about
Please.
that. And I guarantee he's gonna wanna, if he doesn't already know you guys, by the way, because like Okinawa's wicked small, right? With James
Right.
Pankiovics and the Dojo Bar. I don't know how long ago you guys visited, but the Dojo Bar is like a staple that I'm
Right.
sure you guys visited. But
Of
James
course.
and Josh, they're like super, super close. I have to introduce you guys. He would love to connect with you
Yeah.
about that because he actually ironically dragged me into the dojo, but for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, BJJ, and my background was wrestling, so that's kind of how we intertwined. But he's been in karate his entire life. Has been in Okinawa since the early '90s, and he's trying to find as many people as he can that are kind of, like I said, the ambassadors to this. And I think he's got the only Okinawa based karate podcast, which is crazy because it's from there. So anyway, I didn't expect that at
Wow.
all, but that's,
I know.
yeah,
Like I heard
it's,
Okinawa and I was just like, "Whoa, holy crap, that's amazing."
yeah,
So,
yeah. It's funny because when you live there, you get the same two questions, kind of like in small back towns, right? This small back island is, you ex-military, Quinton? And they go, no. Same exact in the order every time. Second question, teacher? English? No. Met my wife in the UK. We moved out. We stayed out there for almost a decade, right? So we actually just made our way back a couple months ago. But Okinawa is wonderful. It's beautiful. And where I lived in the middle of the jungle up in a small village, the longevity aspect of it, I know there's a lot of arguing. I can tell you it's real. I've seen it. I've watched the 80, 90-year-olds with their farms, and I've talked about it ad nausea. But nevertheless, that's amazing, man. I wouldn't. How long have you trained? Like
Since
your
I've
whole
been four
life?
years old. Yeah, my whole
Oh,
life.
good
I
lord.
literally grew up like on the dojo deck, and I mean, like it really was. It was Ansei Yushiro is the person that my dad studied with primarily in New York, but it really was like he gravitated towards a lot of the people that were around like the Long Island, New York City area. So like Ernie Ferrara, people like that are people that are part of his family tree, so to speak. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. I can't wait to meet your friend. That's amazing.
Right? It's a small world. And
It
he would
is.
love to do it. He's a super, super down to earth, friendly guy as well. But talk to me here, man. I mean, you made quite a big change, and I'm sure that this role kind of impacted you a little bit, going from Virginia, to New York, pursuing acting, which we're gonna get into in the first place of how many people don't make that leap. But what was it like, just talking about Okinawa and coming back to America? Like, what was that transition culture shock like?
Yeah, I really honestly feel like in a weird way, I felt like I was going home when I went to Okinawa because it's so much a part of who I am, and it's like it kind of like makes everything make sense in a weird way when you feel like you've grown up in a practice, but then you see it. You see the kind of culture behind it, right? It's just very special. I mean, again, as you know, the Okinawans, I mean, like, yeah, they're farmers for the most part. So every weapon, that they had to defend themselves with was either a bow staff, which was used for fishing, or a tonfa used to mash the grain, or an aku, which is one of my favorite weapons, which is an oar, and you can do some damage with an oar. Obviously the sai to till the land. So different, weapons and different practices that just really resonated with me. But again, I really appreciated what my dad did because I think in America, we fall into the trap of, having it kind of become like a subscription service and bringing kids in and, giving them
McDojos.
trophies, McDojos. Yes, exactly. And he absolutely like put a kibosh on that at every turn. And there were times where he could have grown his business. He probably could have franchised it. He probably could have had it in, many, many different states. But he was like, no, that's not my practice. That's not what this practice is. And, I respect so much of what he sees in the practice because, again, it really is. It's that self practice. And I think that's what is so impactful about martial arts. If you're doing it the right way and you're around people that like aren't just trying to take money from you, like it really is. It's that classic thing that like I get asked all the time, because it's like when you're in middle school and high school, people are like, well, how many fights have you gotten in? I'm like, I've never been in a fight in my life, right? Because I know how to take care of myself. And it's like that peaceful warrior approach that I think we really all need to have in our lives. Because, I mean, if you've ever seen a fight in a bar, like it's not pretty. It's not how it looks in the movies. And I do think that for me, it's just kind of one of those things that's like always resonated and again, been a core part of who I am.
How did it teach you in terms of like discipline growing up at such a young age in this, or even transitioning into acting, like staying centered, trying to get into roles? Did that carry over?
Yeah, I think it did, but I think it also gave me an escape from acting. I think
Mm.
that as an actor, as an artist, you need to find ways to have something, else that you're passionate about. You have to find ways to, immerse yourself in a football game or go outside and do some katas, whatever it is that can kind of keep you balanced because when you're passionate about something like I am about acting, it can take a toll, right? So you have to find ways to kind of keep that balance and keep that escape. And I think that martial arts has been a big part of that balance for me.
Keeps you down to earth, right? And even the fact that I mean, you see both sides. What a fight is like in the movies and then in the bar that you described. I think not nearly enough people realize what you had said there, that the outcome never ends the way the movies end, which is like usually, grandiose and it's quite dangerous. And Josh will tell you the same thing. And everybody that, all the masters that I've had the pleasure of meeting and connecting with is the same thing. They're all like, this is a last resort type of thing. This is like
Yes, that's the words. Yep, the last
yeah,
resort.
we
Exactly.
don't seek this out. My my Brazilian jiu-jitsu sensei, which he wouldn't let me call sensei, is Helio Damiani Jr. And for him, he calls it flow, but not just flow on the mat, actually flowing in life. It's like you're trying to divert that energy away from the conflict. And at a last resort, things can come out. What's going on, guys? If you like that clip right there, you will love the full interview. You can check that out right there. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and subscribe because we got a lot of big things coming up in the near future.